This is a guitar, and today I'm going to be telling you some tips and tricks to help you get started along the way that I wish I would have known when I started out. The appeal of the guitar is pretty obvious. We see people like John Mayer, Sugar Ray Vaughan, and we think we'd like to be able to do that. Sad truth of the matter is, though, it takes years of practice and dedication, and oftentimes we don't even know how to begin. Well, today I'm going to be going over all the things you need to know, like knowing your guitar, how to read tabs and chord charts, and other tips that will help you out in the long run. I've had many people ask me to give them lessons over the years, and instead of giving them lessons, I've always told them what I'm about to tell you in this video, and I always tell them, come back to me in a month or so, and I can give you some more. But I honestly believe if you take what I am about to give you and put it into practice, you'll actually see some development. First thing we're going to talk about is knowing your guitar. The guitar, this one's a little beat up, I know, it's my first guitar, has many different parts to it that you need to be familiar with. The most important part starting out is obviously we have strings, and you need to know what those strings are in order so that you can tune your guitar. Now on the headstock you'll see these tuning knobs, and these actually adjust the pitch of the string, and each string has to be at a certain note. Now there's tools that can help you do this, like for instance I have here a tuner, and you just click it on and you hit the string, and it'll tell you if you need to go up or down, or if you're lucky enough to have a piano handy, you can do that with the piano as well. But if you don't know what the notes are, it's not going to be much help even if you have these tools. So the notes go in order from top to the bottom: E, A, D, G, B, E. So when you're looking at the tuner, you want to make sure that you know which strings you're trying to get into tune. Also, you can watch videos on YouTube to be able to do that as well, and you just match the pitch. Also, you need to find the right guitar for a beginner. And instead of trying to go out and find the flashiest guitar, I always suggest people get something like this, which I would call a beater. But pretty much the worst guitar you can find, because if you can learn on that guitar, you're going to be able to play anything. And I mean, this guitar is not that great, and I can still get around on this one just fine. This one's out of tune right now. Alright, now I want to tell you how to read tabs and chord charts. So in music, they've helped simplify it so that when you're learning guitar, you don't have to necessarily read sheet music. We kind of got shortcuts around that because sheet music for guitar can be really counterintuitive because the same note on a music staff could be played multiple different parts on the fretboard. So we have chord charts. This is great for learning because this will teach you a bunch of different chords that you need to know starting out. So this is a chord chart, as you can see here, and you'll see that on the fretboard you'll have numbers, and those numbers correspond to your finger. So on your left hand, your fingers are going to be numbered. So your pointer finger is number 1, and then this is number 2, and number 3, and number 4. Almost just like while you're counting what they would be. It's the same way. So if you see a chord chart and it'll have the number 3, it wants you to use your third finger. And the number 2, it wants you to use your second finger. Number 1, it wants you to use your first finger. So this would be 1, 2, 3. Right? And that's a C chord. You'll also see numbers sometimes on the side. That means the fret number it wants you to start at. So fret numbers are very simple. Open is 0, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going all the way down. And that's the same on every single string. And then if you see an X over the top, that means they want it muted. So that's basically all you need to know to be able to read a chord chart. And I definitely suggest reading those to get some chords when you're starting out. You'll also be introduced to tabs. And a tab is a very simple thing. It's going to look kind of similar to sheet music, but not exactly. You're going to see all the lines, but instead of the lines representing notes on the staff, they actually represent each string. So if you look at a tab, you're going to see on the bottom line, that's going to be your bottom string, or your lowest string, and then from there on up. And then you'll see numbers on the tabs. I know it's kind of hard to see, but there'll be numbers on those tabs. So those numbers will be on those strings, and that means what fret you need to put your finger on to do what it's telling you to do. For instance, this says on this string to do, I'll just play what this says, and that's just reading the tab here, and I haven't even tried to play this. So just by knowing how to read that and never having played that before, I was able to do that little lick right there. So it's a great tool, and that's going to allow you to learn all the songs starting out. You know, you find songs that sound easy, and you go from there. And it's a great way to map your progress too, because you'll find songs that are a little too difficult for you to learn at first. A couple months later, you go back and you realize you can play it. The other tips that will help you out in the long run are scales. Scales are perfect starting out. I always suggest a pentatonic scale because it's the easiest scale you can learn, and it sounds pretty cool. Pentatonic scale is also called a blues scale. It's a minor scale, but that's not really important. But I would suggest learning a pentatonic scale in A minor, which sounds like this. It's pretty simple, 2 notes on each string. They differ a little bit in spacing, but not too much, and then you can kind of throw them together to do a bunch of cool stuff. I mean, rock and roll uses it all the time. All based on the pentatonic scale. So that's the one that I always suggest people learn 3 chords, learn the pentatonic scale, practice those for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then you'll actually get somewhere. Between the scales and the chords, with the chords, I always suggest learning D chord, C chord, and G chord. And if you can combine those 3 and figure out how to transition between them smoothly so you don't have to sit there and kind of, you know, figure out where your fingers go. Once you know comfortably and there's no gap in between those, then I would suggest going on to the other chords and start adding those in as well. The last chord you should learn being the F major, because it's a bar chord, meaning that you have to bar all the strings, which is pretty hard for a beginner to get all those strings to actually sound. So I'd save that one for last. And lastly, I would say just learn how to listen. As you learn guitar, you're going to come across music that maybe interests you more than it did before. Like that's why they say jazz is music for musicians. You know, you hardly ever hear people that aren't musicians listening to jazz, because it takes a musician to appreciate what is actually going on musically, because there's a lot of theory involved and it's very challenging. But to the average listener, it may just sound kind of dull or boring, or it's just something they're not interested in. So I would say open your horizons, and when you listen to your favorite songs, instead of listening to the lyrics, listen to what the guitar is doing in the background. You'd be surprised sometimes what you might find. And it's really fun to learn those things too. Those signature licks or signature songs that you've liked for years, and actually being able to learn them is really a fun thing. You know, like... being able to play that's fun to know how to do. It's a fun little thing. So, when we put all that together, it might seem like a lot, and it is, but if you apply all these tips into your arsenal and are consistent, I promise you in 2 weeks' time, you'll have made considerable improvement. No, you won't be shredding solos or picking up girls with your skills just yet, but you'll have a feeling of achievement after tackling that first song and finally getting it down. You will continue to build confidence the more you learn, and as it is with all music, there's always more to learn. The guitar is a great practice in patience, and can apply to many other things in your life as well. We often don't get what we want right away, and the guitar is the exact same way. It demands your attention and respect, and doesn't offer any shortcuts along the way. There's only one way to ever become a fluent player, and that is with practice, determination, and patience. Today, I have told you all the different parts on your guitar that you need to know. I have told you how to read tabs in your chord charts, which is really important, and some other tips that'll help you out along the way. I hope this video has been informational for you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.